I can answer one. I can answer a question. I'm just looking in the group. Key West starts June 1st when you're talking about island operations, but they're completely shut down.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. So here we are in Boat Trip Operators. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very special Facebook Live event number 2 that is working. Fantastic. We have a very special guest here today. We've got Kevin O'Neill, who is the captain and owner of Destiny Water Adventures. They do pontoon rentals and jet skis. Is that right, Kevin?
Yeah, man. Yeah, we do pontoon rentals, we do jet ski rentals, we do dolphin tours. We had a whole adventure tour with inflatables, with kayaks and paddleboard, and kind of an all-inclusive thing that we were doing last year. That we're not doing this year, but yeah. So we do a whole mix of stuff, man. I'm just looking in the group. We had
Excellent, very cool. We got 5 viewers now, and I think more people coming on board. The reason I brought Kevin in today, and he was so gracious with his time and volunteered to help, is because he had a fantastic post in the group. I don't know if you guys have seen this, where he essentially is marketing local for a local business, and he was still able to essentially double their sales for March, which is lower than they had the projections for because of obviously COVID, but they were still able to increase their sales, which is a huge feat currently, because none of us are getting any bookings, and somehow Kevin has figured out how to do this, and so I've invited him to come and share step by step what he did in order to achieve these phenomenal results. As we're going through this, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin here in a second. As we're going through this, please post your questions in the comments section. Don't forget that there's a 20-second delay between us actually talking and what you're seeing in Facebook. So give us a few seconds, a few minutes to actually process those questions. But I'll make sure to pop those into Kevin when we get a chance. And without further ado, I'm turning it over to Kevin. Kevin, tell us
Hey,
how you accomplish these amazing feats, my friend.
well, would you want me to jump over a screen share, go into it a little
I
bit
want you to kind
first?
of break down kind of your strategy at a top level. Like, how did you even come up with the strategy, and what, how do you approach this kind of problem?
Um, Man, I was telling you before we started, man. I threw money at it, man, when nobody else in our space was throwing money at it. So that we were really lucky in North Florida, where we were not completely shut down. So we were actually able to stay open. Our boating and waterways were able to stay open. Um, People, as they shoved in their house, want to get out, want to do something. Initially, we just had this kind of big, wide open marketing plan. We just hit Facebook, Google ads everywhere. And then when COVID hit, we really had to focus on local. They're just local. So that's what I did. I increased our ad revenue. I geo-targeted on Facebook. I geo-targeted in Google ads. And basically we just kind of shrunk everything down and stayed really focused. We did some local discounts. I'm not a big fan of deep discounting. We added some freemiums on. If you rented the boat in the afternoon, which is what locals do, they want to start their boating experience at 1 p.m., not at 9 a.m. So we were able to, you can tack an extra hour on to a half-day boat rental. I could throw in a paddleboard, anything that wasn't going to cost us a lot of money, but that we could throw into kind of as an enticement to them. So yeah, that's what we did. We like, as I said, we had increased growth in March, and then as my initial post had us down 40%. At the end of April, being today, as of today, we're only down from last year by 20%. I mean, obviously we grew from last year to this year, so that doesn't really attest to necessarily a profit bottom line. But as far as the growth is considered, or as far as the actual loss from year to year, we were down about 20%. So I can't. There's a lot of people that are down 100%. So you know,
Yeah.
we're happy for anything that we can
Yeah.
get.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I consider it a
at
win.
this point, yeah, any sales you're getting are kind of like the frothy top of all of this. How did um yeah, tell us about how you did it.
So I I think it'd be best if we go into a screen share right now, so I can
Okay.
showing I think is a little bit easier than explaining it. So um, all right, so analytics. So as you can kind of as you can kind of see here, we have these numbers are when they show these increases, they're looking at the time frame that I have. So right now I have from the beginning of March to the end of April. So they're looking at that as versus like say January to February, which we're closed down. We're not doing anything. So you know this 536%. These aren't like huge, massive gains like it kind of looks like. And
Okay.
this revenue actually isn't accurate as of our revenue either. So when I go back to the Google Ads page, you'll see what we spent, but this is actually much higher because we're still in the process of connecting our telephones and our call rail system to reflecting all of our total sales. So without getting too far ahead, anybody that's ever worked with Google Ads, that's paying for Google Ads, this is basically just our e-commerce, and it also takes into account our organic sales as well. So you know this isn't necessarily the total of what we done, and it's not also representative 100% of Google Ads, but you know Google Ads is really at play, as you can see. I wanted to change this date range, so bear with me. I got this right in my way. So I want to reflect the same date range. All right. So you can pretty much see when COVID hits, man.
Got
There's
it.
this massive
That's the
drop.
demand,
Yeah.
right? But so you didn't change anything right there, and that when that kind of when that cliff happens there in your graph, that's just you didn't change anything with the campaigns, right? That was just the like COVID just hit, and like all of a sudden people
Yep.
just stopped searching.
Yep. We didn't change anything in the campaign at that point. Um, and as you can kind of start to see, a rise a little bit in the impressions, it really stays steady. As far as coming in here, you can see the kind of drop off. I actually had to stop running my ads because we were sold out on this weekend. So that's why you see that drop down there. But so the impressions, what the most important thing about these impressions is where they're coming from. Because when you look back here, if I went back and I segmented this and you looked at March, you wouldn't see as strong um, of a as strong as of impressions coming from where they're coming from. So what I mean to I kind of gotta again I gotta kind of show you this. So this is the quantifier right here. What we did is we increased our bid adjustment. I made a bid adjustment by 15%. So meaning is 15 miles around my location, I raised my bids. So anybody that was still operating in our area, I'm adding a 15% increase into my max bid. So we really, again, we're focusing on the local market, people directly in our general area. So we outbid our competition. I raised my total amount of money that I would spend to get a click. So my cost per click didn't necessarily go up because there's nobody, the amount of people advertising shrunk. So there were still people out there, still people advertising, but we were just paying more, you know, for a click. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you get the customer, then you get the customer.
And so wait, so I'm looking at all these other campaigns, right? You still have March 1st to April 29th, and you're still getting a bunch of sales. I mean, your conversion rates are fantastic from like Ohio. You have 10% conversion rate from Ohio. You get some, so you're still bidding on other states, but you were more aggressive with people that were within 15 miles of you.
Absolutely, 100%.
Got it.
And going into analytics, this is where the magic kind of came in. Um, Give me a second. We're going to go into geo because it all comes down to targeting. It
Yeah.
all comes down to geographic targeting. So obviously United States. So right here, that's the big one. Florida is typically not on the top. Typically, Georgia is. So
I see.
Florida became, and even more so than that, we're located in Fort Walton Beach. We're right next to Destin. All these top areas here are all in our general area. So you can see that geo-targeting working. You can see it actually happening. Our bounce rate's at 50%, meaning people are spending time. They're going through, they're spending time on the page.
Right.
And that's what we want, because ultimately this bounce rate and the click-through rate, again, the amount of time that they're spending on the page and clicking and looking around the website, is ultimately going to be a reflection of your revenue. So again, going from this back to this, like,
Yeah.
the numbers don't lie, man. Like,
Right.
we went really hard. I don't have the Facebook data in front of me because I have somebody else handling that. Well, and we actually have somebody else handling this for us as well too. So I just have a pretty good understanding of what's happening in these, rather than just paying someone and seeing sales coming through.
Yeah,
Like,
of
I actually
course.
spent the time of understanding this, but the
Yeah.
Facebook worked in tandem. So another part of this was that we ran Facebook ads as well. And
So the filter, by the way, on this graph that you're showing here on this table, this is just AdWords. This is just AdWords sales
this is AdWords and organic.
and organic.
But the organic wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the ads, though. Like this would be completely, like, if you go into AdWords, if I go into my AdWords account and it just tracks, it just shows the amount of revenue
Right.
that came through those ads specifically. It's also not taking into account the phone sales, as I said in the beginning. So
Right,
there's
right,
a lot of ads that I took over the phone, a lot of bookings that I took that don't even actually come into this equation. But I would say that this is probably pretty close to what we spent, or what we got from AdWords. And I think our total expenditure for that for the last 2 months, which is really low for us, is going to be $4,000 for the last 2 months.
Are you sending people directly to, like, let's just say, for instance, that it's like the Fort Walton, right? Fort Walton, right?
We were located in Fort Walton.
Fort Walton. If you're bidding on like pontoon rental Fort Walton, right? And then are they going just to your homepage, or do you have like a special landing page set up for them? Like, how are you converting that traffic?
So, I mean, we bring them to the pontoon rental page. So that's
Got it.
another huge mistake I see people do when they're doing paid search. They run people to their homepage. Like, this is an absolute, like, this is a huge mistake. Russell Brunson says, right, the confused mind is going to deter a sale. So if you're running an ad or you're running an offer, you want to create as few steps as possible from the customer making their decision. So when we run ads, we run them. If I run a jet ski ad, I'm running them to my jet ski page on my website, or my, the landing page, the jet ski landing page, the pontoon landing page, whatever product or service we're offering them. We're not sending them to the homepage to make them go click around and do the work themselves. We're directing them straight to the page that we want them to book on. So
Got it.
we did the same thing on Facebook. We ran 2 ads on Facebook. We ran one remarket. So For those of you guys who don't understand what remarketing is, if you don't have a Facebook pixel on your website, you absolutely need to have one. And what a Facebook pixel does is it gathers data from Facebook about your customers, and then it retargets and remarkets to them in other places like YouTube, Google, different the display networks on different websites. So it just kind of tracks their movement. I'm not, you know, a 100% technical guy. I just know that putting that Facebook pixel, and we do a remarket campaign through Google. We ran a remarket campaign through Facebook, and then we did a direct, again, a localized video. Hey guys, it's Captain Kevin. We're, you know, renting boats out, local discounts, this and this and that. So
and that's in your Facebook ad, is like a video of you actually
yeah,
saying like you're open, you're available, and that people can still book with you. That's
yeah,
awesome.
man.
That's actually really smart. And like, what's the conversion rate that you're getting on these retargeting campaigns? Do you know? I'm super curious.
On the retarget, so I haven't been running any retarget campaigns technically through Google Ads. It's something that we typically do, but as far as like a conversion rate on the retarget, I couldn't give you those exact numbers. Again, it's just one of those things where it's the rule of 7, right? So if somebody sees your ad or your name out there 7 times, then they're X amount of numbers more likely to book to you. So as far as like people clicking on like banner ads, it's real low. I was like looking around in our analytics last night, and I think the display network was something like 0.32% or something like that. It was something drastically like ridiculous. I don't know that a lot of people are clicking on a lot of display ads and buying through display ads, but it does help with your brand. Yeah,
because the purchase cycle isn't immediate, right? Like people aren't going to just go in and be like, and like oftentimes they won't just like buy on the first click. They're researching it. They want to do it in like, you know, 30 days or 60 days maybe. And so they'll do the search, and then they'll click through and they'll be like, oh wow, this is a really cool business, this is a really cool company, I feel like this might work for us. And then they'll go and they'll maybe click through on another one and look at it, right? But then you're following them around for the next, you know, 30, 69, 90 days and and you're essentially, you know, continuing to be in front of them for the right time. So when they are ready to buy, you're already there and available to them, which is like a super smart move. I think retargeting is a great move. I got a couple questions here for you, Kevin. From Joan, amazing results. The cost per click is similar than they are here in Barcelona. To compare, can I ask you what your average ticket amount is? What's the average ticket USD?
it's around $300.
$300?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what she actually guessed right on. Joan, good call. 300 USD. And then Simon says, yeah, so you bring them to the targeted page on the specific product or service per ad. Yeah, so that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Let's so you have essentially you have your are you doing any Facebook ads at the top of the funnel to essentially to bring people into your website in the first place?
I mean, I guess I mean, I'm just thinking like top of funnel. Like, is it technically top of funnel? I would say so, but again, it's like hyper focused. You know, it's within 30. You know, it's geo targeted for our local market right now. But it's something that we have done before too, where we've ran engagement campaigns in the areas where we we know we have a ton of drive-in traffic here. So, excuse me, that's just obviously when tourism rebounds from COVID, like regional traffic will be second, drive-in or local traffic first, regional traffic second. So knowing your market, knowing where your people are coming from as we get back to opening up is going to be the quintessential factor in whether or not your business can survive, and how you can get in front of those people. It can be costly, because you've got to get into Facebook then and really understand your demographic. You know, I could target people that say are jet ski enthusiasts if we're looking at their interests. That doesn't necessarily mean they're traveling to my area and renting a jet ski. That just means they own jet skis and they like to do it. So we've experimented with doing things with like who's a fan of Destin and doing like a real generic, real broad Facebook campaigns in the areas like say Atlanta is a huge drive-in market for us. New Orleans is a huge drive-in market for us. Parts of Texas. So we've kind of funneled it down in that regard to kind of like from like one funnel into another funnel, as it were. So find, you know, if you like this, click yes. If you like this, like our page. If you want to win a free this to Destin, check this out. I'm sorry, Destin is our larger neighboring market. So we really focus out. We always use that Destin keyword search term. You know, like if you're visiting New York City, you know, like
Right.
you don't know where you could be staying anywhere. Regardless, so we've run these larger campaigns to kind of see like get a feel for who's coming to our area to visit, and then created custom built audiences on Facebook to advertise to those people our products and services.
Got it.
So I think that's a huge I think it's a huge barrier to entry for a lot of people because you're trying to figure out where your customers are coming from, and then you have to figure out, you know, if they're even interested in what it is you do. So you have to do a lot of due diligence. You have to do a lot of research. You have to know where your people are coming from. And I think any company that's pivoting right now has really had to figure out how they can provide local and regional trips and how you can creatively market, you know, your product or service to your local area.
Yeah, that's it's definitely a challenge, right? How do you figure out? I mean, like pre-COVID, I think that maybe you're kind of unique in a sense that like you have a lot of local traffic because like you have a lot of the U.S. states that like people can drive and come and see you. You know, it's interesting to think about like for us, for instance, we're on an island in Tenerife, right? Like I don't even know if we're gonna have an open airport, but I do know that like it's part of this, it's part of Spain. And I know that Spaniards, are like 50% of the market. And we get a lot of Spaniards coming in for vacation, and most likely this may be a potential destination for them. But at the same time, uh, if they can't make it to the island, then like the local market is like what, the 250,000 people that like live on the island, which is like nothing. Um, and I know there's going to be tons of competition, and we're definitely not like we have built our service and product to cater to English speaking, to the UK, which is like another like 35% of the market, and to German and French. Like we have like multilinguals from everywhere. Um, and so we've kind of catered our product to those demographics, because there's so many other companies competing for the Spanish market that we're like, well, let's target this one that's less saturated. And yeah, it's like I don't even know what amount of local marketing that I could do personally. I know there's a lot of other people here that are on mainland. Like if you're on mainland Spain, like Barcelona, for instance, you could probably get people to come and visit you from all over Spain that can drive to you, right? So it makes sense to do some local marketing there.
It's it's
Um,
it's definitely it's gonna be a huge challenge for everyone. I mean, again, we're tip of the spear. I'm super blessed and super lucky to be at where I'm at and doing what I'm doing. So what necessarily works with like throwing dollars at things for me in our market
yeah,
being still alive is not going to necessarily work for somebody who's either a trying to pivot to local, trying to pivot to regional, or is just completely flatlined right now and has nothing, has no way, nothing is happening. So
right.
to those people, I say like here's where the grind really comes in. Like you have to get back to being an entrepreneur. Like maybe your day job changes. Maybe you have to take a paycheck, and then at nighttime, you get back to your grind and you do content marketing. Like right now, that's my biggest advice to anybody that's flatline. If you cannot do anything right now, if there's no hope for another month, you need to be creating content. Like we are so content rich, as we were talking about. Like again, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're so content rich that all you can do right now is make sure you're updating your website, doing blogging, vlogging, working your socials, putting content out there as much as possible. I recommend a book if anybody hasn't read this book. It's called They Ask, You Answer. and it's an amazing book. And the writer, his name escapes me now, but he uses 2008, that during the financial crisis, he's selling pools. Who was buying pools in 2008? And they were able to survive and thrive through that by flooding the market with content. You know, you think of every single question that your customer asks you, and you answer it, and you answer it ferociously through every channel you possibly can.
Exactly.
YouTube, anything that doesn't cost you money. Blood, sweat, and tears right now is what's going to keep your business going.
Yeah.
And if you can't figure out a way to pivot locally, if you can't, then start thinking about how you can start, you know, phase two, regional, when people close to your area are able to come in. As you said before, you asked in the group, Key West, or you asked what island operators are.
Yeah.
Key West, the same thing. They're totally shut down. I think they have 30,000 people that live on the island. Even if they wanted to pivot toward the local community, nobody has any work. Nobody has a job right now because it's 100% based on tourism. They do have an opening date though. They have that June 1st. So if you have an opening date, if you have a window to open again, like right now, you just need to be blasting content. So when times are tough, you don't have money to spend on Google AdWords or Facebook, you know, you can still kind of like move your way up in those organic listings and start to move the needle in that regard by, again, answering the questions that your customers have been asking you for however long you've been in business.
So I got a couple questions here coming from the group. Also one of mine, how many of your bookings are for future dates versus like in the immediate, like next week? Like what's the range there? Cause I know you said you were like, you pivoted to local, you're doing local marketing. How many of those are for like, you know, August or September? And how many of those are for like next week?
I without like going into the data and looking at the raw numbers, just off the phone calls that I take, like, I mean, it's like 90% immediate. So that's why I'll shut down my ads sometimes, because I know that they're going to eat up my ad spend for just something that I don't have to give them. You know, so like right now, because I don't want my phone blowing up off the hook, because that's some light at the end of the tunnel. I am getting a ton of looky loos for May and June. Now I don't want to blow $9,000 a month
Right.
for looky loos, you know, potentially, you know, and so on to that end, you know, again, we're working the organic a little bit harder and putting in a little bit of work while I still have the time. But going into my analytics, so this is the last 7 days. Then you can see the drop off when I stop running ads. It's pretty funny, but so this is what's happening. So we're starting to get a ton of interest for May and June. As far as the actual pre-booking, because I don't take deposits, I take payment in full.
Yeah.
I would say it was at zero somewhere probably right now, between maybe 10 to 20%, because people are still just trying to come out of the woodwork. Florida's opening up. So as things as new news scales up, like when you go and look at some of these scales, like you'll see the impressions start to ramp up, like around April 21st, when they said that they would open up the beaches the following week for limited access in the beaches. So to answer that question, we are starting to get calls from May and June and further out. Are people spending the money at the moment right now? No, because they're still unsure what's going to happen. What people are starting to call.
Yeah.
I know. I see my ad budget. Whatever, man.
Yeah. Good. Well, I mean, it's good. You're getting some results. I got another question here for you. Do you mind if I ask what your bounce rate is from Simon and how you handle keeping it so low?
Well, we keep the bounce. So each page is going to have a different bounce rate. But we keep the bounce rate low by making sure that, again, so organic and ads are going to have a huge play in that bounce rate. And and as we talked about earlier, when you funnel somebody to a page rather than a home page, you know, everybody doesn't search the same way. So you can't assume that somebody's like going to look at the top of the page and go like, oh, look, there's pontoons, or there's, you know, this part of your whatever, and click on that and go look at that. You have to bring that horse to water, like right to the right where they're going to drink
Oh
from.
yeah.
So when we, you know, we, again, on content on all our pages are very specific. You know, like pontoons, we go on and on and on. There's a ton of text on each page that talks about exactly what we're doing. We have, it's kind of like like Lake Havasu, or it's called Crab Island. It's a local little place where everybody has this like little boating community in water areas where people go and hang out. So it's called Crab Island. So a lot of people specifically come to Crab Island. So we created a specific Crab Island page for our website, so that explains, you know, because somebody that has no idea what Crab Island is. Right now you're looking at me going, what's Crab Island? Well, you can go to destinywateradventures.com, and at the top of the header, see Crab Island. Click on that Crab Island page. So again, it's making sure that every page is laser focused in its message, and that all of your ads are laser focused in their message. And that's what's going to keep that bounce rate low.
Yeah.
And then again, when you're leading people, you know, that you're properly, your meta tags on your headers are correct. You know, if you have a whatever it is that you do, if you have multiple offerings, that those offerings are going to be very specified to the landing pages that they represent.
I noticed a couple things too in regards to the bounce rate question. I noticed a couple things about your website. One is I noticed that it's very visually compelling. Like your website is like, you know, it's got huge pictures. Everything looks really beautiful. And so I'm wondering, did you have like is this your first website for Destiny? Did you have another website before that? Like, did you see any change in the behavior of your particular customers in the way, in like the design of the website?
Yeah, so this is the second iteration of Destiny. The first iteration, I built myself through Wix. It stylistically, I really wanted to keep everything like super like easy bullet points. But when I actually hired an SEO manager to take that over for me, he was like, "Yeah, man, like I get that. You know, you wanna make sure that." Again, I was just focused on conversions, like making things easy, having a clear call to action right there. You know, this is what you get, this is what you get, this is what you get. But again, I was looking at it through my eyes, not through everyone else's eyes. So when they built out the second version of Destiny Water Ventures, we were very content, like, I mean, super, a lot of text, but also making sure, as you said, that there's images throughout those texts, that it's not just like there's a breakup in the monotony. You know, that's not just one picture of somebody sipping a glass of wine and then, you know, 9 pages of
Right.
text. You know, and that was the idea there, that we made sure that it's content rich in as many different areas as we possibly can without making it too jumbled. So
Would you mind showing us like one of your best performing page?
yeah, sure.
Because the other thing I noticed on that page as well is that you have these. So you have the images, you have like the main information, and then you also have a ton of like FAQs. Like if you expanded all the FAQs, there's probably like another 2 or 3 pages of useful content on those pages, which I would imagine people find you know, very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. The one place we're lacking is blogs. As I gotta take my own advice on there, but so this is going to be our homepage, and then, you know, so some people just want to know what Crab Island is. There's a lot of searching for Crab Island. I think we're like the second or third for when it comes to this search. There's a regional OTA here that kind of owns the lay of the land digitally. But we really focused in on Crab Island because people are just trying to figure out what that site was. But definitely the best performing is going to be the pontoons, because a lot of people understand what Crab Island is. They realize they got to rent a boat to get to Crab Island. Yeah, so this is the one that does it, man. This is this is the one that brings us the most amount of money. We, you know,
Tons of
we get a
content.
lot of. What's that?
Tons of content.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Because again, so it's like there's a lot of questions that are being answered. You know, what's included, what to bring. You come down here, we give you a little bit of explanation about, you know, what we offer, what it is that we do. Um, sorry, I forgot to forward my calls to.
Okay, no
It's
worries.
all right. We're all good. Do all these questions that come in. Can we take the boat to Crab Island? So again, it's they ask, you answer, in play here on the website. So these are questions that we just constantly get asked, and we want to try and make all of the information for our customers easy, digestible, but at the same point in time, again, things are broken up. You see a call to action here. Let's do this. Ready to go. Call another call to action. So in between every, offering or explanation of offering, like, are you ready yet? Book the boat now. Cool. This is what you care about, the price. Hey, you want to have, we do combos and jet skis. Here, get that. What are you going to get? What are you going to get? Like, are you still not sold? Here's some more information about, our different markets. So we hit Fort Walton Beach pontoon, Destin pontoon. Those are two separate search queries. I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many people call me all the time and say they always think we have two locations, but it's so we rank for both. So Fort Walton's a much smaller market than Destin. Destin's much more saturated, and it's a harder nut to crack. Um, but we're going after both. So if you're attached to a larger market, don't be afraid to go after that market and then go after the low hanging fruit that's your lesser known market. So, but we constantly just ready, like as I said, ready to go every time at the end
Yeah, you
of
just have the
whatever
call
it
to
is that
action.
they ask. We have a CTA right there waiting for them. Let's go. Let's go. Maybe you don't want to look at
Yeah,
book.
I saw 5 at least. Yeah, it's great. I
Yeah.
mean,
So
yeah,
we
that's the whole point, right? You want to make it as easy as possible and as frictionless as possible for people to just be like, "Oh, yeah, yes, I'm ready," and like a click. You don't want them like scrolling around and like looking for like, "Well, how do I actually book this thing?" Right? You want to make it as easy as possible for them.
yeah.
Is this the page where your PPC ads, like for obviously for like Walton Beach pontoon rentals, like is
Mhm.
this the page that your PPC campaigns point to?
Yeah, absolutely. So for boat rentals, I point to here. For jet ski rentals, we point to here. The Crab Island excursion, again, so that's this is again, it's just taking them right back to the boat rentals and the jet ski rentals. But if people have questions about Crab Island, and this is why we rank so high for Crab Island, we have all this data right here, rather than people going to a pontoon boat and having all of this information about Crab Island over here in pontoons or Crab Island and jet skis. It's got its own page. So if we had information about Crab Island on pontoon or jet ski, that's going to contribute to a much higher bounce rate. You're going to have a high bounce rate if you have like some kind of like price. Like I see some people have like pricing pages, like a price page with all of their prices. Like, going to have an insane bounce rate. It's going to have a terrible click through. So
Right.
yes, you want to answer their questions, but you also don't want to confuse them with some. I had even one of my competitors and friends. I just told him, I said, get rid of this page. This is terrible, man. This is really confusing for people. It's too much information. So
Yeah.
however you can segment information is definitely going to is going to help. The ultimate goal of getting them here. And we've even considered, because I can't get to Fair Harbor because I'm logged into Fair Harbor, but
Admin.
a
Yeah.
lot of people that use Fair Harbor, I've considered even bypassing our page and sending them straight to Fair Harbor. I don't know what Checkfront looks like, or ResD or Peak Pro, or what a lot of the other companies that book you, but Fair Harbor's their checkout process and their booking flows are done really well too. And sometimes I thought, like, man, maybe I should like bypass them and send them straight to Fair Harbor. You know what I mean? To take one less step out of the process, but we don't want to lose our brand awareness, of course. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you're not a commodity, right? You've got actually a pretty cool service.
that's right.
Um, so question from Simon. Actually, he's got 2 questions. One is with the content you were talking about earlier, just right now to produce content. He asks, with that content, would you say to make it informative or to sell?
No selling. No. Information, because you have to have value in your message. Like, first and foremost, you have to provide value in your message.
Yep.
And this it happens. The selling almost happens naturally because it's going to pair you with the kind of customer that you want. So if you constantly get these questions and you answer these questions, you're weeding out the customers. And look, everyone's not a fit for everyone. So somebody might, want the lowest price. And right now, especially now, like bottoming out your price is a massive race to the bottom. So you basically are selling them because it's inbound sales. Like it's not, we don't live in a day and age anymore where you have to be like sold on something. You just say like, this is everything that we provide. This is what you get. This is our price. And they're going to be sold if there's a match, if that's your typical customer type. Because everybody, when you say, well, what's your customer type? Everyone says the same thing. Well, everyone. That's not true. Everybody has a very specific customer type. So you have to be providing value in your message, and honestly expect nothing in return from that other than giving the customer, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but value, and make sure that that message is done in a good way. That's not time wasting. It's answering their question, but answering their question in an interesting and informative way, or even entertaining way that you can keep them engaged. So
Right.
oftentimes I say I don't rent pontoons. I'm a marketer of pontoon rental services.
I mean, it all comes down to marketing, really. I mean, you can have the greatest product in the world. If you don't know how to market it, then it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I'll say it again. They ask, you answer is the name of the book. That if it's your last $10, audiobook, eBay, wherever you can find it, they ask, you answer. Write it down in your notes. It's a wealth of information. Really good.
Awesome. It's a great recommendation. I've never even heard of that one before, so I'll pick up a copy as well. Another question Simon asks is, with the FAQ sections that you have at the bottom of the pages, do you have the same content on each page, or is it different content, different FAQs for each page?
Different FAQs for each page.
Because they're specific, right? Like the FAQs are specific for that type of tour or excursion or product group, right? Like that's essentially your pontoon rentals. Like when people call and they're like, I want to do a pontoon rental, those questions are very specific to a pontoon rental, versus if someone says, I want to do a Crab Island excursion, then you're like, well, there's a different set of questions that we usually get. And your process, and just to reiterate for Simon, your process is that those questions come from actual customers that like are calling you and asking you questions, and you're like, man, this is a really common, frequently asked question. I should just put it on the website so that they can get their answer without me having to like answer it for them, right? Like that's ultimately how you collect your FAQs, right?
Absolutely. And again, to go back to the theme of that content building, you can create entire, I mean, there's FAQ, there's questions that you can build content pieces out of that aren't even on there. That's just bare minimum type stuff. Like, but say a more nuanced questions like, what do we do if it rains? Like that's not something you can put into an FAQ. That's like more like maybe like a video blog where you can say, well, like this is how we handle rain in our area. Like this is how we deal, not necessarily just, we have a 24-hour cancellation policy. We have a rain check policy. We have a no refund policy on rain. No, like to actually explain, like, so if you have a customer, you wouldn't just sit there and robotically speak to them like that. If a tour got rained out, or where you're on a snorkel trip, let's say, or something, and you get bad weather and you got to call the trip, you have to explain to them exactly like what happens, why you did it. And I did a whole video blog on why, how we handle weather cancellations. So there's sometimes there's nuances that you can't answer in an FAQ that people are typing into their search engines. You don't, like, you have no idea unless you work at Google. Like people are asking like extremely specific questions related to your services.
Right.
Like, what's the difference between a Pinot and a Pinot Grigio and a Pinot Noir if you're doing wine tasting tours, or what's the difference between a Yamaha and a Sea-Doo? You have no idea. Like, what's the difference between a jet ski and a wave runner? I get that all the time. So that's not an FAQ answer. That's a content piece. And so there's a difference between FAQs and content pieces. So you can have these simple FAQs; those are going to help your rankings organically. But you can also do, you know, these heavy content pieces that are really, really going to boost your organic reach as well. So,
All right, Simon's on fire, man. Simon Murray. Well done, sir. You got a lot of questions. I'm just gonna keep firing them. Well done, Kevin, on answering these. Simon's asking, have you used LinkedIn for any advertising?
I haven't, but LinkedIn is going to be a really great way for you to work in the business and like the geez, what like retreat, like business retreats, like or group outings where businesses are getting together and doing like, you know, business retreats and stuff like that. Like that's a great place if you have a tour that or service that can be provided toward a large group of people, toward a large private group of people. LinkedIn, you could use LinkedIn advertising and, you know, to sell your services there. And on that end of things, I use LinkedIn more just for my networking. But I mean, there are I believe there is advertising opportunities on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
If you're offering again.
Hey,
like
I got a quick question that just came to my mind as well. I'm kind of curious how much of your Facebook advertising, your AdWords advertising, and your SEO services, how much of that do you do yourself versus how much do you outsource that, and like how many people do you have helping you with that? Run us through kind of like your operations on like how do you actually run all of this stuff?
I pay a lot of money.
What's a lot of money? Like
to me, so I spend $1,500 a month on SEO services, and then I spend $750 a month on pay-per-click management services. Now that's not including my ad spend. That's just to manage my SEO and my pay-per-click. So to me, that's for us, that's a lot of money, because the fact is that I got so far into managing our pay-per-click on a day-to-day where I was watching it like a stock market, like a ticket. Oh, you know, I was constantly watching it, and we were going through our ad spend, and I hadn't, you know, ultimately my job is to run my company, and there's some things I have to, almost all things you're going to end up delegating if you ever want to grow. You have to delegate. So in the beginning, I didn't want anybody touching my marketing. Anybody want touching my SEO. Like I was working on all that stuff, and I built it through the first year all by myself. But so by the time I was able and willing to hire somebody, I knew what questions to ask. I knew the difference between a good SEO manager and a bad SEO manager. I knew the difference between a 360 marketing agency or being able to piece it out. So I went through a network and hired my pay-per-click manager based off a YouTube video, because he provided front-end value for 2 hours. He talked to me and we waxed about pay-per-click, and he provided value in that conversation. He didn't try to sell me. He just provided value, and he was a match. He referenced me to another. Now I've talked to, 50 SEO guys, 50 pay-per-click managers. I mean, the Hoff, WordStream, like the big players out there, independent guys, you name it. Same thing. When we hired our SEO manager, he provided a ton of front-end value. We went through everything. We didn't talk about ROI. We didn't talk about how much money we can make. We talked about the nuts and bolts of marketing and optimization and the challenges and how we could work together. So I do pay to have it done, but I'm extremely involved in both. I lost the audio.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Sorry
yeah,
about
no, yeah, there you go.
I was on mute. Simon says, "Wow, that's a lot. But if it's ranking you, then and as a good ROI, then it's worth it." And he says, he's ready and able to hire someone, but it's difficult to let go. How did you go through that process of like letting go? Like how do you get over that hump for yourself? How do you trust someone else to do this and actually pay them money to do something that you think you can do yourself? Like, what's that process like?
I didn't let it go. I still,
Still do
like
it.
he's got to talk me out of crazy shit all the time, man. I mean, there's all this like crazy stuff I want to do, like because I'll be in some forum or group chat or whatever, and I'll like this thing will come to me. I'll be like, hey, let's do this. He'll be like, no, dude, black hat, bad
Yeah.
idea. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, like I thought it was a gray hat, but whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't technically let it go, and I'll tell you right now, our SEO manager and our pay-per-click manager both, they didn't defer, they worked for free for us. I mean, the pay-per-click manager worked for free for us for a month because that's my lifeblood, and then Brant has still been working with us and still doing some of the like the automated tasks. Like you could piecemeal everything together. Like I know what campaigns he uses, I know like he uses Moz or SEMrush, I could pay for that stuff, I could figure out what our domain authority is, but just at the end of the day, it's like I'm gonna piecemeal together all this stuff. I'm gonna, like I still have to run I still have to run the day to day
Right.
of my company. So I let go because I could trust him, and because again, he didn't try to sell me. He just provided value. We spoke the same language. I understood what he was saying. He wasn't pitching me. He was providing information and providing a game plan, how we could get to where we want to get to, and that's what sold me. So I still like I said, I don't let go. I'm having this conversation right now because I'm locked into it.
You're
Man.
locked into it. Yeah. But at the same time, you trust I mean, it sounds like you trust the people that you've got working with you to kind of like, to bounce ideas off of, and it sounds like it's more of a collaborative relationship that you have with your contractors. And even
It
though you're
is.
paying them money, they're still your sounding board, right? They're fundamentally, they're the experts, and
Yeah.
and that they know what they're doing, and they're helping you get to where you want to go. But you still, I mean, it's good that you essentially learn how to do all of this up front, right? Because if you hadn't learned how to do it up front, I mean, the same thing with me. Like I've been in Silicon Valley for like 10 years, right? And so like I interfaced with product managers and engineers on a regular basis. And until I essentially learned how to speak their language, they didn't respect me, and it doesn't work, right? And so
Yeah.
as soon as you kind of like learn enough that you can like figure out how to do some stuff on your own, and you realize just how much work and thought process and actually like goes into this work, into running campaigns and doing SEO strategy and all this kind of stuff. Once you realize all that stuff, not only can you interface with these experts at a better level, but then you also have the kind of compassion and respect for their work, because you realize that what they're doing isn't something that's just like fly by night kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's great.
It's like we're going to a mechanic, man. Like if you're just like, if you don't know what the brakes on your car is, it's just like the things that don't make me. But if you're like, hey man, I needed these rotors replaced, or what I mean, you gotta know the landscape a little
Yeah.
bit. And I know for some people, it's just like when people start talking to me about brake pads and rotors and shit, you know what I mean, and like working on boats, like I know enough about it. I mean, me going out there, like it's not something I would really want to sit around and learn about small engines. I just, it's not a passion for me. So I understand with the marketing thing of some people that are just like, oh man, like I don't like want to sit there and look at, these graphs and, all this crap. And it doesn't mean anything. But I mean, just in right now we're 100% data driven, and that's the world that's the world we live in right now is just understanding
Data. I mean, especially, I mean, yeah, I mean, to have data is I think that when you're first starting, it's kind of tough because you always want to find benchmarks and you want to understand, well, how are other businesses operating like this. But I mean, once you start operating and you have data, I mean, I'm a data geek. So I use Hotjar. I don't know if you use Hotjar, but I highly recommend Hotjar. There's a free plan. You install a piece of code on your website, and it gives you like heat maps and shows you like where people are clicking. It gives you like video recordings, so you can actually watch people as they're using your website. So you can actually understand, what's making sense, what's not making sense. If they're clicking on stuff that's not clickable, that you should make clickable, which I think is like one of the biggest benefits I found out of it, is that like people oftentimes will try to click on pictures because like that's the thing that they're super it's very, very common for people to try to click on pictures that are small and try to expand them. And oftentimes I found that like I watch these videos and I'm like, holy crap, like people are like clicking on this thing all the time. We should make that thing clickable. And then like you
Right.
pop up the image, and then below that is a call to action, right? Because then like
Right.
and so like there's just all these like little things that once you kind of start getting the data, and so like Google Analytics is a free tool. If people are not using it, definitely use it. If you're not using Hotjar, definitely use it. And like try to get a good sense of like what's happening. I mean, like you saw Kevin today go through his own analytics, and he can tell you like which states people are booking from. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of that's the stuff that you can't. I mean, you can ask people all day long, you know, where did you come from, da da da. But to have all this data in an aggregate way and right in front of you, and see trends over time, and how the market's changing and shifting, and how your bookings are changing, and how your channel mix is changing, and like there's just so much richness there. And if you know, there's plenty of videos out there like how to use Google Analytics. You know, how do I figure out XYZ? Like use Google as your friend, ask questions. And this is definitely the time to do all that stuff, right? Like don't wait until you're super busy and you're like, oh shit, like I don't have time to actually figure this stuff out. You know, do it now. Like get all this is all, it's super easy to do. In one day you can like figure out how to install all this stuff, and how to get your analytics in place, and how to start reading data. I mean, it's super critical.
Yeah, it's this is it, man. I mean, we're in unprecedented times, and people are really struggling, and it's man, my heart goes out to everybody that's struggling right now with this thing, man, because I know most people that are doing this are passionate, and they're operators first and entrepreneurs second. And I mean, I've met almost every, it's like almost far and away almost every single one of them I know. It feels like this, you know, because you don't start teaching surf lessons because you want to get, you know, because you want to be the next Bill Gates. You don't, you know what I mean? You don't get into wine. I mean, it's because you love wine, because you love, you know, parasailing, whatever it may be, hang gliding. You know, it's, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are people that have taken it to that next level, and that's awesome. And they're definitely going to be the ones that are going to still survive through all this,
Yeah.
you know, because they are paying attention to, you know, this really important segment of what it is that we do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think this is one of the things I hear. I have several friends who became doctors, and every time I talk to them, they're like, "Listen, dude, like med school did not teach me how to run my own practice. Like that's like a whole new thing that I got to learn, right?" And so I feel like, yes, you're passionate about, you know, running boat charters, and you're passionate about, you know, being on jet skis, or you're passionate. This is a passion project for you. But fundamentally, if you don't learn the business skills to get through things like this, and then actually turn your passion into actual dollars, and learn accounting, and learn how to like run your business in a profitable way, and there's just so many aspects of that, like you really have to hunker down, and you have to want to just to not only survive but thrive. Like you got to want to build something that's lasting and sustainable, and hopefully outlasts you as just like a captain. I mean, like if you're a captain of a boat, but like let's say you get sick and you can't run the boat anymore, like what happens to the whole business, you know? So
Yeah.
like think of it as an operation, think of it as a business, think of it holistically, right? Like don't think of it just as you doing the one thing that you love to do, which is great. I mean, it's great that you have that, but you got to learn how to do the whole thing.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of moving parts. Of which my phones have been blowing up, man. So I
Good. Good.
I got to get going, man, because I didn't forward these bad boys, but I really wanted to you know, if I could call people back, man, but I know there's a lot of people right now that are struggling, and right now this conversation, anybody that gleaned anything from this, um hats off to you. Thanks for watching, and God bless everybody out there, and things will come back. I have no idea.
Sure.
And thank you for having me, man. It's been illuminating for me, man. So
Good.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us. Making the time for us. I know you're
Man.
busy. Thank you so much. For anybody else that's still on the call, tomorrow I'm also running another webinar where I'm going to be talking about SEO, my own experience, my decade of experience doing SEO. Do please tune in. It'll be around the same time, a little earlier actually. And we do the same Facebook Live event. Kevin, I hope you're there to join us if you get the time. It's going to be some good information. If you got any more questions, throw them in the comments section. Whenever Kevin has a moment, maybe he'll run through there and answer any remaining questions that we didn't get to.
Will do, man.
Go
All right, Vitaly. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
Bye-bye.
take care. Bye-bye.